Now the committee has decided to shut down one of the most popular journalists on the right, Alex Jones. Yes, journalist. Jones is often mocked for his flamboyance, but the truth is he has been a far better guide to reality in recent years. In other words, a far better journalist than, say, NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian or Margaret Brennan of CBS. Alex Jones never bought the Russia hoax, not for a second. And if Jones sat down with Tony Fauci, he would ask him real questions, just as journalists are supposed to do. He wouldn't just slobber all over him. But Alex Jones makes fun of Joe Biden, so the January 6th committee is threatening him with prison. Now, the irony here, and there are many layers of irony here, but the main one is that Alex Jones isn't simply innocent of inciting crime on January 6th. Alex Jones actively worked to prevent crimes from taking place on January 6th.
You need to defend your civilization against the onslaught of this cancer of progressivism, liberalism, and globalist brainwashing. This is a life or death situation. No messing around. The prescription is 2 doses of InfoWars taken daily.
Welcome back, folks. We talked about it before on this show, the tyranny of committees. You form these little exploratory committees. Just, we just want to ask some questions. We just want to figure some things out. So you make a little committee, and that committee somehow aggrandizes to itself or aggregates to itself untold power, and they start making decisions, and they start issuing declarations and dictates and actually taking control of whatever little area they were supposed to oversee or look into or investigate. That's what happened in Loudoun County. That's where all that nonsense went on. That allowed multiple girls actually to be taken advantage of by transgender. That all started with the equity committee, right? Oh, we're just going to make a little committee. We're going to investigate to make sure everything's, ship shape, make sure everything is equitable. And then it's just, within 6 months, they're issuing proclamations saying if teachers question us, they will be fired. This is how it happens, and it's happening at every level. It's death by 1,000 cuts, really, on the local level, county level, the state level, everywhere. These little cancerous commissions are being created that have real political power, and they're being used quite expertly, by the way, to dismantle the dissident population and neuter any, unfriendly opposition to the ruling regime. It's really incredible. It's literal communism. It's being implemented as we speak. Historians will look back on 2021 as the year where the tide turned and things started to get really bad. And they'll look back and they'll say, why did they not see what was going on? How could they not tell what was happening? Because it's pretty obvious. Here's Tucker Carlson talking about the January 6th Commission and their persecution of Alex Jones. Completely unwarranted, completely false. We won't stand for it. Let's watch.
So from its very inception, the January 6th committee has been an exercise in armed political intimidation. How did it start? You may have forgotten. Congress formed the committee after several members of the U.S. Capitol Police, the same people responsible for protecting members of Congress, anonymously commanded them to do it. So effectively, it was a ransom note. Prosecute our political opponents. That's an order from your bodyguards. Amazingly, they did it. So from the very first day, the January 6th committee was never about gathering information. Obviously, Congress already has the information. Nancy Pelosi knows exactly how many federal agents were in the crowd that day. She won't tell us. Pelosi could release thousands of hours of videotape evidence from January 6th. She refuses to do that. So whatever else this is, don't let them lie to you. This is not a fact-finding effort. This is a highly obvious attempt to punish critics of the Democratic Party. And for months, that's exactly what the committee has been doing. Using the pretext of January 6th, Biden's Justice Department has indicted former Trump advisor Steve Bannon. What? What was his crime exactly? Oh, talking about election fraud on a radio show. That's illegal now. Pelosi's January 6th committee had him arrested. Liz Cheney, by the way, who is being used as a Republican cover for all of this, stood back and watched it happen. Liz Cheney should be ashamed, but she's become far too degraded for shame, unfortunately. And Bannon, by the way, is not the only prominent Republican who might go to jail. The committee has now subpoenaed several former Trump advisors, as well as the fiancé of another. They've even subpoenaed Roger Stone yet again. Where was Stone on January 6th? He was in a hotel room as the Capitol was being breached. He had literally nothing to do with it, but it doesn't matter. He's criticized Joe Biden. He could be going to jail again. Now the committee has decided to shut down one of the most popular journalists on the right, Alex Jones. Yes, journalist. Jones is often mocked for his flamboyance, but the truth is he has been a far better guide to reality in recent years. In other words, a far better journalist than, say, NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian or Margaret Brennan of CBS. Alex Jones never bought the Russia hoax, not for a second. And if Jones sat down with Tony Fauci, he would ask him real questions, just as journalists are supposed to do. He wouldn't just slobber all over him. But Alex Jones makes fun of Joe Biden, so the January 6th committee is threatening him with prison. Now, the irony here, and there are many layers of irony here, but the main one is that Alex Jones isn't simply innocent of inciting crime on January 6th. Alex Jones actively worked to prevent crimes from taking place on January 6th. We're not running interference for Alex Jones, and we're not guessing about it. We happen to know this for a fact because we looked into it in some detail for Patriot Purge. It's our three-part documentary series on Fox Nation. Here are the facts.
So the Republican Party, I just want them to hear this message. Look at this crowd. We are the people that you must represent, or we're going to replace you with patriots.
And so that's what January the 6th was all about. It was just about making sure that if you called yourself a conservative, that you stood with the conservative movement. And unfortunately, it spiraled out of control. We coordinated with the U.S. Capitol Police nearly every day. A lot of people don't know that Stop the Steal actually had a permit on the Capitol grounds. So not the Capitol itself and not the Capitol Plaza, the Capitol grounds, Lot 8. We had a permit. So let's just imagine this. 20 to 50,000 people inside the President's Park. We're sitting there at the very front. I'm dead center of the president, front row. A Trump campaign staffer walks up to me and says, Ali, there are people leaving the overflow, and there are already tens of thousands of people at the U.S. Capitol. With your presence and the presence of Alex Jones, why don't you guys walk down Pennsylvania, gather people together, we're coming, swamp creatures, and then position them for your rally on Lot 8. I wasn't at the Capitol when it descended into chaos. And that's only by God's grace, because I was scheduled to be there. Secret Service let us out at a point where we would have been there when the first punch was thrown. And that's strange. The only reason that we weren't there is because we stopped and gave an impromptu speech.
We're building America up. We're here to take our rightful country back peacefully.
I get a text from the campaign that you should get there and de-escalate because things are not going well. So we started to approach the side of the Capitol where no protests had happened in November, no protests had happened in December. All I thought was, I need to get them to the other side, and I need to get them to Lot 8.
Let's march around to the other side.
And all we are equipped with are megaphones.
And let's not fight the police and give the system what they want.
Maybe 1,000 people are listening to us.
Come off the stands.
Out of 75 to 100,000 people there in front of us. And it was a very helpless feeling.
We need to not have the confrontation with the police. We're going to make that the story.
So the trailer for that documentary got a lot of attention. If you haven't seen the documentary itself, we think that you should. It's called Patriot Purge. We think it is the most comprehensive, the most honest, the most fact-based account of what actually happened on January 6th and what has happened on the basis of January 6th that has been made. We're really proud of it.
Yeah, I should take that advice, by the way, and go see Patriot Purge. But there it is. If there's one thing I've learned working in InfoWars, and this is not because of it, like, it's not like you're scared to question Alex. It's just like, I don't question Alex Jones. I just don't. Because there are times, and, even if he's my boss, if I disagree with him, I tend to speak my mind regardless of who it is. But there are times where I think, I don't know if I would do it. If I was Alex, I don't know if I would do it that way. And I'm always wrong. It always works out. Whatever Alex chooses to do. The best example is January 6th. I really wanted to go to January 6th. I really wanted to be there, knowing there was this massive protest, that everybody was going to be there. But somebody had to stay back and man the ship, and that was as Ali Alexander said about himself, a gift from God, because I wouldn't have the clarity that Alex Jones had that day. I would have been swept up. I know, because I was sitting behind the desk in Alex's studio covering it, and I was swept up in it. I know if I was there, I probably would have gone into the Capitol. I probably would have gotten swept up and thought it was awesome. Somehow, Alex sees right through it. Somehow, Alex is there with his bullhorn going, don't go in. That's what they're going to make the story. Don't do this. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, time and time again, there are examples of times where I'm like, yeah, if I was there, I'd go in. That looks awesome. And Alex he just knows already what's going to happen. He has this clarity of vision that I don't have. And so, after a while you learn, hey, I don't know if he's right, but time after time, he's proven right. Time after time, he's shown how accurate his foresight is. So you trust Alex Jones.
Today, anyone who is awake can clearly see why Alex Jones was deplatformed. InfoWars was right above the target, and the globalists were a year out from launching their attack. 3 years later, and InfoWars is still thriving, thanks to the support of our audience. But we are now facing the fiercest battle yet, and we need you to help save InfoWars. The enemies entrenched within our government are breaking the justice system more than ever in their attack against Alex Jones. No crime, no evidence, no jury, no trial? We don't think so. They want to kill the messenger in a kangaroo trial with their new USSA, but we won't let them. Alex Jones will have his day in court. With your support, go to saveinfowars.com now and give your donation to save the First Amendment. SaveInfowars.com, and God bless America.